All right, recording in progress. Justin, take it away.
Well, um, so I became aware of you um, and your experiences. I think I caught a blurb prior to your Elena Denon and Danny Henderson
The
uh,
round table.
roundtable, yeah, circle, and it was stuck in my awareness. But then I saw that your introduction to your story there, and then subsequently went on to watch a few more of your videos and how I found you here. Um, and then with that being said, it lined up with certain experiences that I have had that are kind of over the top. Um, uh, yeah, over the top experiences where only a few that is I have only found a few that actually understood, had an understanding to be able to process and take in the stories that I'm telling, or coming across your information, because the way I've um, have grown to understand is that most people process information through the filters. There's filters that they have, and if it if they can't see it. It's like you're speaking a different language because they're not vibrating at the same frequency. It's beyond comprehension. So I've experienced that as part of the process of growing.
Well,
Or
let me ask you a question if you don't mind.
okay.
When did all this start to occur to you? How long ago would you say your real awareness to all of this was really ignited?
Well, there in 2012, I had a big shake, um, where I started I had seen some lights in the sky, so to speak, but on a grand scale. And then in 2019, I had uh, a more personal. Yeah,
It's just aligning with some things that I'm in a really unique position to ask this question because I get people are reaching out, and so I'm really curious as to their steps in their journey, and I want to understand it so I understand mine better.
right.
And I hear either or 2012, which of course makes sense. The whole cosmic cycling all reset itself in 2012. We, those of us that were looking at science back then, and I wasn't, but I came to understand this. We expected the shift to be then. Here's the reset, the um, cycle of progressions was all over. 26,000 cycles. We start again. There were two cycles that were simultaneously starting at the same time. So, oh yeah, things are lining up.
Right.
If not that, then for whatever the reason is, and I'm determined to get to the bottom of it, people say it's been within the last 2 years, 2 to 3 years. You fit into that model when something else kicked in, and there's a whole new level of exploration that I need to know about myself.
Well, I don't know. I don't know if it can be reduced to more and more people are being activated. You know,
It's
um,
one aspect for sure. So let me underscore that. Yes, they are.
and it could be energies coming from the different ruling bodies. Planetary. We're getting influx of different rays
Oh
and
yeah. Oh, you're getting a new kind of light, a whole new level of light. And
yes.
last year, if you know anything about me and Kumu, and we're not about that right now, but she said something really interesting that I knew would register later. And in it, when she was describing her interactions and her purpose, she had made mention to, we are going to receive a full spectrum light. Well, I didn't know what that meant at the time. I tucked it away. If you really understand what doses of light we're getting right now, it's considered a half. And there's a phrase for it, and I will dig it out so that the rest of us can understand. But knowing now that we're getting a full spectrum of light that's coming our way, there are other changes that are going to take place with us physically. We already know that this light is activating DNA that's, waking things up. However, there is some things that need to be corrected, and there are solutions coming. A lot of us, just because of the nature of how we were tinkered with before, there is still some manipulated DNA that needs to be removed. And there is a process coming for that. And when that is restored to its human original design, this time it will also have the capacity to carry more light, because full spectrum is coming at us, and higher frequencies. It's absolutely preparing us for this next dimensional realm. Our vibrations got to match that. So, man, they're coming at us fast and furious with the solutions on how that needs to be done physically, as well, prepare yourself metaphysically. Wow. It was really interesting to start to connect all those dots. And, this information's been looming in my head for like a year. What does it mean, full spectrum light? Well, as of 2 days ago, now I know what it means.
Now, is that traveling through like photons, or we're just all around us, or because it's obviously we'll absorb it on it'll.
Yes, cellular level. Yes, it's going to change you at a cellular level. Whatever these codes that are coming on our way are going to be activating, just like you had made mention to it. Now it's the same process. We're being taught, we've been advised this is what's coming. We've been advised, and I've been activated in such a way. Now I have to learn how that's done for others, because it's not going to be a scenario where I'm the only activator for all the rest of you. No. I learn how to do it so I can activate you, and then you go to your pod and you activate them. Those that are ready, you'll know it, and they'll seek you out. So now is the time for this to blossom, and they get it. Think of it as spawning. And when I think of that concept just with light, I'm shocked and amazed of the people that I recognize coming my way. There is a lot of ethereal people that I sense when I see them. They're druids, they're divas, they're devics. You can tell these people are elementally oriented, and they carry the ability to command the elements. They just have an aura about them. Then you have these people who are waking up, speaking the languages they've heard Cindy. Oh my God. Yeah, I used to say that when I was a kid, and I went, can't do that again, tucked it away ever since. And now they feel free to explore it. Well, that's great, because what you're doing is refining it. You're learning how to translate vibration into sound. I'm beginning to understand it, but I'm not a translator for you. You're going to learn how to do that so you can teach others. The last thing that the Lemurians really made clear back in June this year was that it's time for humanity to understand their vibration. Well, we don't yet, or the vast number of us do. We want to hear it in English. So there are going to be more trained like I am that understands that vibration, so they can put it into words that the rest of us can understand. They want that to happen. And I just watch it happening around me. Every time we get to this, and Phil is a good example of somebody who had that tucked away and didn't know about it. And maybe 2 weeks ago, we were in one of these scenarios, and it was just me and him at the end. He just let loose. Oh my God, that had to feel like a great purge. And now he's interested in exploring it more.
Yeah, I think or he's building up to it. I think
right.
I heard did a little bit. And it's interesting because as I started, I don't know how to explain it, deliver it. Hopefully, choose come to me, let the words flow properly, right? So it
Hmm.
resonates with everybody. But after one goes through, I don't you call it awakening, but let's just say such a powerful experience. You can't unsee it. It's happened. You had the interaction, um, and it can't be undone. It's out there. Now, because it's such a powerful experience, what I found, on a personal level, is a lot. Your reality kind of starts crumbling, or at least did in my in my situation, my life, and I started reaching out for information for people that have had similar type of experiences, um, and a lot of the information that coming out, that people are experiencing now, and even like um, the electric universe theory. For you just give me an example. I came onto Ben, his channel, I don't know, 6, 7 years ago. It's but it clicked. It made sense because as I started growing and understanding that we're spiritual beings living in the physical form, that shifted my perception, and it helped me understand things from a different perspective than I was taught. So as of course, as I was reaching out, looking for others that have experienced, something akin, um, I started coming across information that usually was reserved for sacred, powwows, but it was First Nation elders coming forward and talking about some of their experiences, and especially um, like shamans or the elders, you know, sharing their experiences. Now, and I found that that was the first thing that resonated. That okay, this is a similar. I'm having a similar experience. It's known in that community, because they're connected, right? And
Yes.
when I was trying to a term, a label, I guess, on what was happening, but I found a I found it comforting, first off, to know that I wasn't going, crazy. I was starting to tap in and starting to connect with something that has been, known for, since man,
Ever, ever.
forever, forever,
Yes.
you know, and
We just weren't conditioned with that information. But in all defense of the people that conditioned us, they weren't conditioned any better either. So what
oh,
information was going to be passed experientially was going to be really limited. But that was part of the experiment coming here. You want
right,
to try physicality? Here you go.
you go, and so which led me down, so many rabbit holes and different ways of, but those rabbit holes led me to different ways of thinking and being, um, and the like I said, I had some real powerful experiences, in 2019, the second one, um, which activated me on a more, um, with more awarenesses, let's say, you know, um, some pretty, you know, powerful things happen, and it tapped me into being able to see, uh, the ether, and light being, they say light language and light beings, and I've had interaction on that level. And certain things I remember, certain things that I don't, but what I that, but it was pretty powerful, just nonetheless, which led me to because I live in Washington State. And where are you located?
I'm in Sonoma County in California.
And down in California.
Yeah, about an hour north of San Francisco.
Okay. Yeah. So which led me to these series of powerful experiences led me to trying to find a community that understood, or actually it's leading me back to my soul tribe. That's really what it's about. Um, um, but I reached out to healers, some that I didn't know were really healers, but then I found out they through a little networking, because they tend to have a tight circle.
Yes, they
Yeah,
tend to know one another.
we tend to know one another. Yes, and then I was introduced to light folks that can channel light language, uh, and what I found with that was I don't you don't you I remember the vibration. For me, it's I'm getting the message via the vibration. um I don't I feel it. I feel that the energy coming in, probably like in terms of not hearing but feeling it, and you know what's kind of going on. um
Well, that's a wow moment for me,
yeah,
because as I'm going along now and people are reaching out, I get to watch when they finally get it. So you have articulated exactly what it takes me a long time to communicate with somebody, so that they reach the conclusion finally that this is about vibration.
felt vibration.
Vibration. You get there, and then you're in a position to define ether. One thing that really came into my wherewithal right after Telos had happened, and a few of us that I was tight enough to talk to about it would ponder what this really meant. And somebody suggested, well, maybe this is the part of disclosure where it actually now really collapses. Because when they're going to hear somebody like you, Lowell, who's just a regular guy like the rest of us, and you can see that stuff, and you've had those experiences, and you have pictures to demonstrate it, that's one thing you can't argue that anymore. But what sunk in after that is once people started having these dimensional experiences, you can't stop that.
No.
So you might as well just embrace it and go with it, and help people understand that there's going to be more of this going on, and maybe help them along the way to recognize what it is when it comes along. That's why when this happens so much, because we're in human form, I pay attention to the changes in how I physically feel. Because
Right.
that's the thing that you're all going to look for. How does it make me feel that way? Well, when I say vibration, it's really not that, but I'm starting to detect some things that you can feel when these things happen. Cellular changes. When I was getting downloads, I get a little ache in the back of my neck, a little stiff in the shoulders for about 20 minutes, and then it's gone. Okay, I know what's happening. When we get um, elevated solar information coming at us, I can feel that in my joints. So yeah, well, the sun must be active because I can feel it. The more that we can identify those things, the people now they'll start to look for it, because they're clueless about most of this for the most part.
Yeah. Well, I don't know that it's come into their awareness yet. I think that's half of it. It hasn't come into their awareness. So many are still caught up in the stresses of the 3D reality.
Yes.
It's a
Yep.
stressful,
No, I can't argue with about that.
right? And I think I have all different types of takes on this, but maybe um, the reason that some of us are waking up and are having such, powerful experiences, just being the regular Joes or less than worthy type guys, whatever, however what anybody wants to take that. It's to help when those that are, begin waking up, and they don't know what's happening. The first place they turn to is probably the same place that I turned to: friends, family, and and they turn to the medical establishment. The, oh, you need to get on medication and this. No, wait a second, you're just waking up. Wait, yeah, you're just waking up to it all, and there's more.
Yes.
And you know, so so to reassure them that we're here to reassure them that no, we too have gone through that process, and there's those that have already gone through it, and we can help you. This can help you, and lead them into whatever that resonates with them. Because I'm sure as things were being activated within you, um, you started gravitating towards all kinds of stuff.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And like you, I'm looking for a touchstone. Where do I find somebody that's had my experience? You can't really go to Google and find that resource.
Yeah.
You have to do some digging. And even then, when you see references to Lemuria and Telos and people who've had experiences, well, here's where your discernment freaking goes up, because you'll hear lots of things and you have got to decide what resonates with you. And you'll know. You just, when you get to this level of awareness and your empathic thing is kicked in full gear, you just know.
Yes. It's not, yeah, exactly. And you come from and then that's when the shift occurs, because you come from a place of knowing, you know, you know, um, and all those little synchronicities. What you were just saying is because this last summer I spent in Alaska, okay, on a fishing vessel, and anyhow, I started the journey out in the Aleutian Islands, and one of the friends that he lives on Maui. Him and his girlfriend live on Maui, and then they come and work up in Alaska for the summer, and they spend their time back in Maui in the winter. And they were bringing food in. Anyhow, I was helping them, and they invited me into their house, and they were showing me around, and I noticed these two books, laying on the end of the bed, right? And one was The Cosmic Forces of Mu, and the other one right below it, Tales of Kauai, and by something Frederick. Shoot, I forget his name. Anyhow, so I made a comment to, because this is, I think, your podcast or your interview with Danny had aired prior to me, taking off, and obviously it resonated, and I have certain memories of, and been told that my I had a life then, and anyhow, that we'll go into that later. But I had mentioned that. I noticed the book and mentioned it to those that invited me in, and it turned out that the Tales of Kauai, or Tales of Kauai, Erica's grandfather wrote the book, and she says it makes sense if you read The Cosmic Forces of Mu first to really get into the Tales of Kauai are.
Then you know exactly what Kauai is: the highest peaks and what remains of Mu and Lemuria. So when
Yeah.
you stand on that ground, you're standing on sacred Lemurian ground indeed. Yes.
Yeah. So I have never been there. However, through network and connections, I actually helped fish with a gentleman that lives there, and they got the invitation to come visit and whatnot. So that was pretty cool. But it just the synchronicities, it was in my awareness. I saw that, made a comment, and it turned out how that, yeah, Erica said, yeah, my grandpa wrote the book. Just kind of a, so they're obviously connected. But and I bring that up because, as I was saying, I found out, through the tribe that I've come to, that drew me in, so to speak. I'm surrounded by a group of individuals that are connected, and have different, activations or awarenesses that others don't have, or that I don't have. Um, I'm a seer, and feeler, but I don't gain the messages. There's some that are clairvoyant, some that have the guides coming in, all the, you know what I'm talking about. The
Yes.
Yeah, and a couple of them, have kind of come together and said, hey, yeah, you go back, you're one of the original seeders, and you were a keeper of Lemuria, and so that was in the back of my mind. I spent the summer in Alaska, end up getting horribly sick. About 2 weeks before I was supposed to leave, I end up in the hospital. Uh,
What?
yeah, this is crazy. I can't make this story up. It's crazy, but there's reasons for it. And
Hmm.
yeah, I found myself, um, I was sick. I was really, really sick, and I had an infection in my body. And I didn't really know. I was tired. It didn't hurt. I was just tired, and my body was, feeling just, feverish, whatever. So, and I've been on a fishing boat for 2.5 months, um, and that's a story in itself. But anyhow, we'll get to this, the hospital visit. So it turned out this infection in my, by the time I went to the hospital, they said if I would have been a day late, if a day later, I might not have made it. And they got me stabilized, or they got me to a point where, in my body filled with saline and sort of antibiotics. And then 2 days in, they had to life flight me to the hospital in Anchorage. And I spent 10 days in the ICU, where, like, literally I nearly died, or my avatar, my 3D, this 3D body, my avatar almost gave up on me, right?
What was the cause?
Sepsis. So it was they're not sure where there was, where the infection started, but there was an infection, and then my blood turned on the infection, and then I ended up having an infection throughout my whole body.
Wow.
And yeah, it was horrible. um it wasn't really painful. I was just sick. And
Hmm.
um it's interesting because I had, uh, my organs started shutting down, right? um they had pumped, like 25 pounds of saline and antibiotics. So my skin ballooned up, and my kidneys weren't processing it. And yeah, it was a rough few days, right?
Looking back at it, do you see that as some kind of purge?
That's exactly what I was going to say. Yes. Okay. So there's multiple things going on with this story, because they life flighted me to Anchorage from Valdez, and they were prepping me for emergency surgery. Okay, because my organs are starting to fail, and they needed to get rid of the, because it was, I had poison throughout my body.
Mm-hmm.
And so I had reached out. I have a friend who is a healer. He's a legit energy practitioner, right? And he works with frequencies and much more, right? We're a very connected individual. And he's always busy. He has a retail business and a clientele list, and people come to him from all over, and he does remote healings, and he has energy devices, and office visits, and runs a crystal shop. Guy's very amazing individual, very he's connected on high levels, right? And anyhow, I'm sick there. I'm regressing a little bit, because I had texted him just as they were getting ready to life flight me. I reached out to him, and then I had dropped, I just said, "Hey, brother, I'm not doing too well. I'm being life flighted. They're prepping me to get life flighted for emergency surgery because I have a blood infection. It's just ravaging my body, and so any love or healing energy that can be sent my way will be greatly appreciated, right?" And then I just let spirit, I hit the send, because I was compelled to reach out to him. Something told me reach out to Derek, right? And this was like at 5:30 in the morning. Okay. And so they lifelike me, and I hadn't checked my phone. I once I get to the hospital in Anchorage, I had to do a couple little tests, and they were getting like literally prepped for surgery, all in the matter of 4 or 5 hours, however long it took. I don't know, what exactly, but all I know is getting ready to go into surgery, and I looked down at my phone. The nurse had put it up on my bed, and I grabbed it, and all the doctors and surgeons were conferring right outside my door as to what they were going to do for the next step. And I grabbed it. I grabbed my phone, and I looked, and Derek said, I got a reply from Derek. I was shocked, and he says, sorry to hear that you're not doing so hot. I'm going to get the energy, set right away. We'll get working on it, and let me know how you're doing once you're up and going, right? So I saw that, and I was relieved, because that I got a response. Then I get the knock on the door, and the doctors all come back in, and they say to me, "We had a change of heart." And I'm going, "Okay." And she says, "Yeah, we decided that we're not going to do surgery right now. Instead, we're going to give you a 24-hour around the clock care, and we're just going to observe and watch your body, see if it reacts favorably to the saline and the antibiotics. So far, we don't know how, but you're doing okay. You're not on like life support. You're functioning, and your organs aren't working as they should, but we got eyes on you." And let me tell you, what a relief. I like that alternative rather than going to emergency surgery, right?
Yes.
Right. So, but it was the synchronicities. I had just checked the phone, and then them coming back to do that 180, and just let me heal. Wow. And I could feel, actually, it was commented upon that because I had set up, I carry some rocks, and I'm sure you do too. You know, I have crystals that I carry and some shungite that I carry, and so when I go to a place, I'll put up a little grid and just or keep them on me because it makes it. But in this particular case, because I knew hospital, the energy can be intrusive.
Oh,
Uh,
I have a recent incident with that myself. And, I thought I was relatively immune. I
right.
was pretty certain that I have the keys to be able to transmute negative energy, but I was overwhelmed in a triage room.
Yeah.
I had no reason to be, but there was no place. There was 2 seats in the room. I went in with the person who had broken her arm, and the PA was taking notes. So I went in and I was standing there. And as I was standing there, I could start to feel my head getting dizzy. Well, there's no chairs for me. And
Right.
so I decide I'm going to go out in the waiting room. Well, when I get to the waiting room, it's too cold. The air conditioning is cranked up too much. So I got to go outside. And as I had come in, there was a guy that was already sitting on the curb because it was too cold in there and his wife was inside and just waiting. So I asked him if he minded if I shared the curb. So when I sat down, the person that had been with the girl who got her arm broken hiking, she had just come around the corner. Well, she sat next to me and we're beginning to kind of get caught up on the day. Well, here's what happened. And all of a sudden I was out. The next thing I remember is those two were pulling me up out of a brush that I had just fallen back into. So whatever I had picked up in that room, I carried it out and like left it right there. I didn't know any of it was taking place. When I felt myself getting dizzy, I thought all I need to do is I'll close my eyes for a couple minutes. And then the next thing I know is they're picking me up.
Wow.
Yes, there's crazy energy in the hospital. And if you stop to imagine what else might have happened in this room prior to me getting in here, it's damn likely that there was a lot of trauma left behind.
And a lot of it is trauma based. Yeah. If not
Yeah.
so I was aware, and that when I was aware, despite being super, sick, um, to set a crystal grid up in my room to at least, because I'm in the ICU, man. I'm fighting for my life, right? I just wanted my area to have knowing that energy tends to gravitate, towards the weak, and
Mm-hmm.
especially, that energy that feeds on that. So I was trying to build it up as much as I could. So, and anyhow, I had set the grid up, and then Derek was sending me remote sessions, energy just round the clock, and he uses, people, woo woo, stuff, and merges it with frequency technology, scalar waves, and you can send that energy out literally to anywhere on the planet and like round the clock, and they'll receive the you know receive the energy as it standing right next to the person. So
Yeah.
I was getting that, that round the clock while I was being observed, and bags being rotated. But to go back to the there was a spiritual battle going on as well. And to go back to what you were saying about, you said, I bet, like ascension. I look at it as a purge. I had to purge everything down on the cellular level, right? Like
Yes. You're making space.
I
Really.
made.
You're making space for what's to come. And in order to do that, something's got to be purged. And in your case, it had affected you physically. So
It
I
was
don't know if it was, spiritually triggered. It very well could have been. Because when we understand how tied our ethereal body is to our physical body, now you've achieved a level of understanding and really how self-healing. You're When you described your relationship between you and Derek, both of you understand you're an electromagnetic being.
Yes.
Yes, you can send those healing vibrations out to elsewhere when your intent goes out there, because we understand that that's how we push energy. Why do you
Correct.
think if we all understood Reiki, we would have this knocked? And that's why Reiki people are so effective, and we scratch our heads that they didn't even have to touch us. And oh my goodness, whoa, I
Right.
feel something. Yes, energy and vibration. And when you wrap your head around those ideas, now you know how the world spins and how you can fix yourself. Bless the doctors' hearts in the hospital. They're all worried about your physical being. That's why they want to cut it open. We don't know anything to do except to do that to this carbon body you got here. We don't know how to deal with the things that come at you metaphysically.
Correct. Correct.
Yeah. I
So,
shouldn't say that. There are many that do now.
well, they're coming into awareness, and
Yes.
maybe and the ringing in the ear, um, and
Which one?
left,
Spiritual downloads.
yeah, yeah, left ear right now, yeah, um, and that's where there's so much growth that I'm excited because there's so much growth that's going to occur, you know. Um, yeah,
Well, we're smack dab in the middle of it, buddy.
we're
Honest, we are. Um, there's a reason why we feel the way that we do. And if we can come to terms with that, this is just an incarnation, and
right,
that when I die, I'm not done. No, I'm not done. But that's the prevailing thinking around us. These people are really going to freak out when they start to think that there might be an actual end of time, at least in this dimension. And they're not prepared for it. Yeah.
well,
But their souls are going to go recycle wherever they're going to be. That part of them is immortal.
right,
They tend to forget about all this because this is third dimension life. Until you have a frame of reference, we didn't know how dense this crap was or what that even meant to exist in this place. It's, oh God, we signed up to understand physicality and we got our money's worth. We're done. Time to move on. Glad that Earth's ascension is coming and we got no choice but to move up. Thank God.
right. So, um, there are many on the as ascension, ascension, which is I guess you can get lost on that topic, but um, is it has it been explained to you by the higher beings as to what happens when that shift occurs? Is it literally just a vibratory state, just moving up in vibration?
That would be oversimplified. The answer to your question is yes. And actually, I got a whole lot more clarity over the last couple of days than what I had led myself to believe. So when Earth's vibration rises and ours, it has to as well, all of that light energy that has been affecting us at a cellular level is, it recognizes the higher frequencies around us and it matches. So here is where we're no longer in this carbon suit. Doesn't work up there. We don't vibrate. Carbon does not work. So we've assumed this crystalline level now. Great. Okay. I want to wander my mind to understand what that is. When I reflect back on the Lemurians I got to see, that explains exactly why they look so flawless. I can't tell you if they're 100 years old or 1,000 years old. They're flawless. That makes sense. Their body's crystalline. It's mostly light. And from this point on, through fifth dimensional, that density, we can take physical form. You pick it. You learn it. You've got form that's, carbonized, not carbonized, but it's got form. Sixth and seventh, you're back to light beings, and you can transition in and out any form that you wish. But basically, you're a light being. The pictures that I have those are the apparitions of the light beings that have been around me. So at least I can put my finger on it, but they can change into whatever they wish. Once you rise above this level, your entire thinking is different. I always wanted to know, when we go from this, okay, if that idea that in a blink I'm going to be in this existence, and then with the next breath and when I open my eyes, I'm in new earth. I wondered, okay, am I this naked crystalline being and there's a bunch more of us, and we don't know where we're going, there's nothing built? No, it's not like that. We already in our minds have co-created what we think is new earth in our heads. And when we get to the other side, we've already had this discussion with the whole rest of our tribe and collective. We've been mapping this out forever. So when you reach the other side, that environment that you wish to step into, that understands the law of one, and that everybody understands compassion and unity, and that's where we are. We go back to that realm. That's what, if you want to consider the fourth dimensional, that kind of angelic realm, this is where we go back between our incarnations. Here is where we choose the next lessons. And here is where we construct our next soul contracts. So here are the lessons I want to sign up for, and I'm ready to jump back into 3D and let's see how that goes. Well, we're done with that. And a thought framed in later yesterday, and it really resonated with me, that we are finally going to get to the point where we absolutely don't think in 3D terms anymore. It's not that we don't see duality, but we rise above it always. Right. We know we're connected to everybody else.
Yeah. No, I find myself, shifting my thinking to, because I have a unique perspective, a different awareness, and maybe a different understanding than, kind of like an eagle's eye view. I can look back and understand that both are kind of correct, and they're and not to mention they're learning the lesson that they signed up for. Who am I to interfere with that karma? So I'm learning, and it's learning not to get caught up.
Yeah. Well, you articulated really well. What you just described, sovereignty to a T. You respect that for everybody else as long as they respect it in you. You have free will and you make your own choices. But God, if we all thought that way and we understood our unique gifts, you have one that's all yours, and we weren't meant to all march to the same drummer. We were not. As I see more people coming into the tribe, everybody's got a gift, and it's different from everybody else. And you know what the wonderful comfort in that is that when it comes time that I need a high level channeler, that's what we have Yaya for. And if I needed a cosmic cartographer, that's what I have Dave Wallace for. It's great that I understand what he does, but I don't need to do that. We got Dave. And in the same case, Justin, I don't know, we'll figure out what your gift is, but we got Justin. And when you do it, I say this all the time, you'll do it, and it's the easiest thing for you that you ever think. You enjoy it more than anything else, and the rest of us, we marvel because it's not what we do. Thank you when you do.
Right. Yeah, no, it's interesting because I had that conversation. I had very similar conversation with a friend who's tapped into healer, and I was just saying how remarkable it is. I mean, really, how remarkable, because like you, I have highly gifted, highly attuned individuals around me, from, light language channelers to reality architects and wizards and,
Yes.
Yeah, it's amazing. It really, really is amazing. And speaking of which, one of them, actually highly encouraged me. It didn't know, that I was you were already in my awareness. But what he had said is that because we were in circle, and we have a friend that has a series of art and frequency healing, I guess, healing graphics and sounds that were downloaded to him at Shasta. And he was doing some activations, so he got a series of downloads, and channeled them, wrote them down, and created them, and now he's been doing it for, I don't know, 20 years or so. He's very accomplished. And anyhow, so we're all sitting there, and one of the things that came through in circle, what my friend says, your Lemurian family is reaching out to you, and they're asking you to reach out to your guides, your Lemurian tribe. Well, I don't have that. Well, so far, I don't have the ability to, or it hasn't been activated to call in certain individual you know individuals, let's just say.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I'm not sure if you, but I likened it, well, you're the closest thing to a guy, you're the guy that's been to Telos. And when Amaral was giving me what he saw, he says, Justin, you were in this, I don't know, this thing in a tube, and it levitated. And he was describing what you described to a T in your, I didn't ask him, whether he had seen that or had listened to your interview, but he was saying, reach out to your learning guides. So
Yeah, it's the unsolicited stuff that comes, and you got to receive it a few times before it actually gets hammered into you.
yeah,
That's what made me just resign myself to it. When
yeah,
you continue, when I first met Yaya, she was introduced to me as Cindy from friends that had gone to Egypt, and they came back. And when they came back, this friend Lisa and I, she was the first Zoom session that I ever had when somebody wanted to really question me about what had happened in Telos. Well, Cindy came through and was going to spend a couple of days, and the next day when Cindy was hearing about me, she said, I got something I think I need to pass along to him. So Lisa calls me, we jump on a Zoom session the next day, and Cindy begins to speak this language that I don't know what the hell it is. I have never heard it before, but she was instructed to give me that message. Over time, it's not that I reach out to Cindy. We weren't that close. We appear to be getting closer and friends now because we spent so much time doing this together. But Cindy would reach out when she was inclined to. Like when she was going to Shasta, she kept getting prodded that you reach out to Lowell before you go. She goes, yeah, I will. When it gets closer, I will. And when she got within 3 days, it was like Source was ready to like push her out a window. Contact Lowell. Well, there was a reason why. There was stuff that we needed to exchange before we left, and then we needed to make plans for ceremony while we were there. And all of that was unsolicited. I first got an email from her. She said she had a message for me, spoke some light language in a voicemail that she'd left, and this message that Toth had been looking for me. And she was to pass the message along. Got another one like that. And then we got right before Shasta, we did one of these Zoom sessions. And that's when I recorded this all. Now, all of this time, I had been seeded with these thoughts of Toth, things that were way too big for me to think that, yeah, that's true. But they kept coming anyway. And when Cindy delivered like the last blow, okay, I get it. And even then, when I surrendered to the idea, you still walk away from that session going, okay, I'll buy it. Now what do I do with it? Well, you learn in time. Everything takes time to assimilate. But what it does, now you see the dots connect. and you just surrender to the stuff that is unmistakable. You're meant to know this stuff, and you're meant to know it because you have the balls to tell everyone else when they come up to you and they want help that they're not crazy. We're going to give you some other gifts that they don't have yet, but you're going to tell them they're going to get them too, because that's what's going to happen. That interaction with me and light beings wasn't ever going to just be me. And I got to sit back and write books and do movies about, look at what happened to me. No, it's preparation for the rest of you. I was the first one, not the only one. And so that has kicked into gear in the last 2 weeks or so. Now we're understanding when that's going to happen again. And I've been assured by my guides, tell your people to prepare for that day because their time is coming and their upgrade, if the time for them is coming.
Well, see, and that's right. That's exactly what I've been feeling. So it's been crazy. It's been a crazy enlightening experience since getting back from Alaska, because since getting back, all I've done is spend my time around healers. Are you there?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, you must realize you draw them to you, right? You draw them to you.
Well, in this particular, yes. But there are some grand, revelations or impact, like wow things that have been occurring for them and me. They're helping out of they called to, and during these sessions, we try to kind of come together. Certain things have been revealed, and I have been saying there's something compelling me to try to get. I know everybody's being prepared for what's about to occur, and something's telling me to bring these different tribes together, right? Because
you're a connector too.
They're connected as well, and like I said, I know some very powerful. I would say power. That's the wrong terminology. But I would say experts at their craft.
They're gifted.
They're gifted. Yeah, highly attuned experts at their craft. And I felt that it was to fulfill that was taken out and replace it with this energy, because as I'm preparing myself, for what's to come. And part of that is remembering who I am, I guess, and I'm still working on that. But certain awarenesses and certain gifts are coming on stronger. And I'm sure the same has been for you, especially your understanding of the emerald tablets and your relationship with those.
Yeah, that came in a snap. I got to tell you, Justin, that was definitely divine intervention, because I went through that 5 times. I was drawn to it for reasons I didn't understand, but I like to understand that kind of information. So it's not unusual for me to have gone down that rabbit hole. But the first time I read it, didn't get it. Word salad. Okay, well, maybe I'll come back to this. Then when I learned that there were versions of it on YouTube that you could listen to, great, sign me up for that. But they're 3.5 hours long. So you need to be committed. Yeah. The next 2 times I took it in was that way, that I would take it in like an hour doses. And at the end of those 2 times, still word salad. And so I gave it one more shot, tried to read it. It just, I sensed bits and pieces of it, but not enough to say I had a command of it. And then there was a shift last year when Kumu and all of this, right before she came online and made herself present, all of a sudden I had received a copy of it that had been updated by Jordan Justin River, I think. Anyway, he had been given permission through a meditation where he had interacted with Toth. And Toth said, it's time to contemporize this document. So he worked with, the interpretation that Dr. Doriel had done back in the 30s or 40s or whenever it was, and he just made it more contemporary. So it wasn't so male oriented, it was more gender neutral. And some of the words that were in there were less ye's and yays. And, they made sense to us. And when I read his, I understand it all. And when I did, the key to it, but by then at the same time, you described the differences in ether and what that is, and that separates the dimensions. Now I'd had enough dimensional experiences to understand that I'm straddling them. And so what Toth is explaining to us is that perspective from different dimensions. The 7 lords he's referring to are the lords of each one of the dimensions that are here and present on Earth. Now, we don't need any representation for 1 and 2. Third dimension is where we begin. But there is a Lord that oversees each one of the dimensions here on Earth. So when he's referring to 3, 4, and 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9, those are the lords of the dimensions that are involved in Earth. And once you understand that, whoa, okay, now I understand this perspective. Now all the other things that he's talking about here, that makes sense. You're talking about dimensions, it changes between the dimensions. Yeah. Get a hold of that, because at the other end of that key is how you unlock all that magic. And it wasn't just Tosi locked away forever. You get the key, you get the goods. You all do. Just read through the tablets, understand the wisdom, and you'll find your way there.
I've read, well, I've listened to on YouTube 2 or 3 times, and read snippets from one of the translations, and on PDF, and it hasn't stuck, but compelled me to actually even go down that rabbit hole, or actually, because I've read many various texts, but that one repeatedly was I have seen Thoth in the ether. And one of the experiences that in my 2012 Quetzalcoatl, okay, I saw a plasma. I'm not sure if it was a plasma ship, or it to me it looked like a miniature sun, and the sun was doing this, but within that there were several pictures shown to me. And one of them was of Quetzalcoatl. Okay.
That's just him in another form. You know that, right?
Yeah. Which is still, I had that.
Yes.
Actually, I didn't have that awareness at the time, but
you reasoned your way there, didn't you?
Yes. I expanded my knowledge of Hermes Trismegistus, right?
Yes, and Mercury and Enoch. There's lots of different references to the same entity. These are all the same person. Tahuti is another thing he goes by. Yes, all the same wisdom source. Yes.
So seeing that, and seeing that image, and knowing, you said coming from a place of knowing, I knew who that was, based upon the pictures that was shown to me. And then I actually watched that plasma, sun, I guess, open up a portal and zip through it, right?
Yes.
In front of me and my daughters. And my daughter saw it, so I wasn't the only one. I had 2 daughters that saw it at the same time, and they were just like, actually, it was they were tired afterwards. Like, it was too much. And shortly thereafter, I went to bed too. But in 2019 also, I saw when I began to see the ether, different beings showed up, and one of them being, from the what I'm still trying to wrap my head around if there were deities or what, maybe there were ruling energies, right?
Hmm.
Uh, the lords of the gates. For all I know, I don't know 100%, but I did see, uh, you know, many of the ancient, well, Isis. I saw Isis. I saw uh, Thoth, right? Horus, right? Osiris.
Yes,
Yes,
they
you know,
seem to be very active. I have heard lots of instances of Isis making herself known and coming through different sources. And it's not like, no one commands that she's the only one that, processes Isis. She just is working her way through. And it's almost like the community embraces. It doesn't matter who we hear from. As if
right.
she's speaking to us, we just want the message.
So it. I'm aware. I'm aware of Thoth, and listen that what you said, I understand and resonates about being prepared and unlocking the codes.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah, and I know that there's something to it.
Great.
Yeah, I know there's something to it, and so you've successfully done it.
Yes.
Good for you.
So far. Um, yeah, I consider myself, I must be on the advanced team. But in another incarnation, way back in Atlantis, I was part of the priesthood back there that saw the handwriting on the wall. And back then, there was a pure version of the DNA codex that was the original human design. Well, when we knew that the downfall was going to happen, we had tucked that away. Some in crystals, some of it we carried in our own Akashic records. So when the day came that some trigger was going to come along, a finger that was going to be snapped, whatever it was, when you figured out what that was, all of a sudden, here it comes. And the assistance to go along with it, because many of this is going to be passed down from higher dimensions. Well, we had to circumnavigate how the hell was that going to happen? And they cannot involve themselves directly with humanity. So those of us that incarnated back like as blue star children in the early 50s, we came in, our souls came into this incarnation knowing that later on we were going to connect and make this bridge happen. That's why the light being showed up and I had physical contact with them. There was where the baton was finally passed to higher realms to here. Here's how we get it done. So now we're making provisions for the things that they're sending our way in terms of removing mutated DNA, manipulated DNA, and then the light codes to take the light conditions that have clearly changed. The photon energy coming our way now is all the stuff that is mutating us, if you want to see it that way, at a cellular level, preparing us for our next incarnation. And this shit's going on right now. This is no Star Trek, episode. This is what's going on. So let's see. We're getting toward the end of our time here. I want to see if anybody else had any questions, any remarks, and if not, Justin will be back to you. Phil, you and I got our business out, and he's on mute anyway. I can't tell who else is in because it's just a telephone number. But if you'd like to say something and chime in, be my guest. Or not. Okay, then Phil, you got any parting words that you want to put on tape?
Man, I really enjoyed this conversation and listening to Justin. I have such a similar background. I ended up on life support for 4 days. My organs were all shutting down. That was self-inflicted. So that was coming off detoxing off of alcohol. But it certainly laid out the groundwork for my spiritual path. So I appreciate what you had to say tonight, Justin. And
Oh, thank you. Nice to meet you, Phil.
yeah, I look forward to hearing more. Thank you, guys.
Mm-hmm. All right. Well, then I'm going to stop the recording here, and this is going to serve purposes for other people for sure.